My name's David Bethune. I've been in software since I was 9. I taught myself to program when I was a little kid on a TRS-80 Model 1, standing up at a Radio Shack
Okay.
and giving demos to the grown-ups who didn't know what it was, and turned that into a career. By 16, I was working in that field for a very early software company called Borland that used to be bigger than Microsoft and wound up going away. Wound up at IBM as a mainframe programmer and then left IBM to start my own business, kind of when the web was new and hot in about 1995. And I've been doing websites and web apps since then. And then I had some friends and family money to start a VC-based company with an invention of mine, and it failed, unfortunately. And I had a real crisis about what do I want to do with my career. I thought, oh my gosh, I've been doing websites forever. I've done enterprise software, big companies, IBM. Where do I belong? And I've been a gamer my whole life. My mom worked for the company that made chips for Atari cartridges when I was a kid.
Okay.
One day she brought home a cardboard box and it had a VCS and all the cartridges. And she was like, oh, here, they gave me this at work. Well, of course, my brother and I lost our minds and fell in love with that right away. And I've had all kinds of machines and game software since then. So I thought, well, what I really want to do is be in game software. Like a lot of developers, I want to be a game developer. So during that crisis period, I had a dream where a game came to me in the dream. Game is called Hexed. It's online at hexedgame.com.
Mm-hmm.
Came to me fully formed. I knew when I woke up that I needed to make the game. I needed to make a card deck that you could put in your hands, and I needed to make an online game. So I did that during my job hunt period of what am I going to do now that I'm unemployed and running out of money. Having the game out there is what got me the game job. It was like instant cred. They said, well, I guess, you must know something about this. So I would recommend that for anybody who wants to break into the game industry. Don't talk about it, just do it. Just do one. And it can't run here, it has to run there. They have to be able to go and visit it without talking to you. And that is instant credibility. It shows you can do UI. Does it have help? Does it work on mobile? Is it buggy? So that was the way to get in there. Unfortunately, that studio was owned by a big company that does slot machines, and they decided that their foray into mobile gaming wasn't as profitable as slots, and they would get out of it. So our studio closed, along with several others, and several hundred of us lost our jobs all at once. So then I had another crisis. But what are you going to do now? Do I want to go to another game studio? Last year, probably a lot of your audience knows, about 50,000 game developers and software developers were laid off in the US. It's just unfathomable numbers. It doesn't make you excited about going back because you think, well, I'm going to be there a year, 2 years, and they're going to can me also. So instead of that, I decided to take what remaining money I had and try to make my own game. Because as you know, everybody that works in a game studio secretly wants to have a game studio, have it be their game, just like every waiter wants to have a movie script or be an actor. This is true in gaming also. So I started down that road. My job at my old studio was tooling. And this is something I really love, and bringing together the pieces and parts, assets, code that make it go. And I did the web tooling and the web UI for all of our store. Our game had a store where you could buy characters and trade them. All that happened on the web. So these guys were writing the game in Unity and playing on mobile, and I'm doing the web part, where we sell the innards and the characters and trade them. So that was really fun. And a lot of it was about tooling for my teammates. How can I make it easy for them to deal with assets and stuff like that? So I wound up with my own sort of engine that was used for my game site, Hexed, and then wound up getting used at my studio. When it folded, of course, I still had that and own it. So that was naturally the set of tools I would use to make my game. And I started out, the game is called Watson and Holmes, A Murder on Nob Hill. It's Watson and Holmes, Sherlock Holmes story, but their first one set in 1879 in San Francisco. So I started to modify the engine to be more of a game engine. And I thought, well, what will we call it? You're there in the TE something engine. And I just typed Watson engine. Well, Watson engine stuck. As I progressed working on the game, I realized I can make all kinds of other things with this. My former product manager at my old studio, and a very good friend of mine, Bill, said to me, the product is the engine. You can make lots of sites. You could do portfolio sites, this sites, it shows, storyboards, all kinds of stuff with this. You need to sell the engine. I got thinking, probably there's more people who want to buy an engine than want to buy my game.
Yeah.
As much as I love my game, I don't want to be in love with it too much and think that's going to pay all the bills. It's more likely that I either use the game as the engine as a factory to make multiple games, or I license the engine to other people. So right now, Watson has proved to be very useful for making other kinds of apps. Like I have one called TV Explorer that's for watching TV around the world, and one called Conjunction One that's for spotting celestial objects with telescopes. And all these are just running on Watson. So right now I'm sort of experimenting with going wide, which we can do now with AI tools. We can have multiple projects sort of in the fire at one time and see which goes well. So that's what I'm trying. Instead of putting all my eggs in a game or even all my eggs in an engine, I'm using that engine to make several products, and we'll see which one blooms the first.
Yeah.
So that's my story so far.
Yeah, you got in on the ground floor of what's the hot stuff now, really, as far as software, AI, and all of that stuff. So, what was it like, I guess, starting out when you first were getting into software and stuff like that? Was it complicated, sort of comparing to now, where everybody kind of, I mean, you just go on Google and sort of find everything you want at this point? Well, starting and then working your way to now.
Well, back then we had to use the library and the card catalog. And people might not know that there was a stack of 3x5 cards with a rod through it. They had a hole, it held them all together. Didn't take me long to figure out all the computers were in the same section. In the Dewey Decimal section, they're in the 000s. I guess they really didn't know where to put them. So I stopped messing with the cards. And I just took home stacks of books from this, and I read them all. There weren't as many. This is the early 70s. We didn't have home computers. Yeah, this was a brand new concept. So these books were very academic and writing at a professional level, not expecting to be a home user. But it was what I needed to know to get the fundamentals. And I would recommend that for anybody. I don't think people are going to be good programmers with AI or without unless they get the fundamentals, learn how the processor works, how memory and storage work, how software turns into values in memory and storage, and how that creates a user experience, because it's a lot more complicated than just writing code or writing a prompt. And quality software requires knowing about all these other underlying parts, where it's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
That's what they don't tell you. As long as we're just on the top of the road, everything's great. But under here is a lot of scaffolding. And to be able to make really cool stuff, we need to be able to talk about the scaffolding in an intelligent way.
Yeah.
And when it breaks, we have to know where to go, which pier to dive under, and how to jack it up without taking the whole thing down. So that knowledge only comes from the bottom up. When I started at IBM, they required all programmers to go to something called base class, which was a 9-week class where they paid you to put on a suit and tie every day and sit in a classroom and be lectured about how to write and debug software. And I thought, wow, I mean, everybody should do this. Ritz-Carlton does that with concierges and desk staff, right? You're not allowed to talk to a customer until you've been infused in the Ritz-Carlton way. Nordstrom does that also, that you're worthy of that, or we don't just let you out here talk to customers. IBM did that also. They said, well, we're going to get you up to this level before you start touching our code or talking to our customers about their code. And boy, was that was life-changing. And I would recommend anybody that wants to take this as a career seriously, pick some platform that you're into, preferably something modern. We love retro computing, but nobody's going to hire you to do a Nintendo emulator, okay? Think of something people really run. That means PC, Linux, right? Or modern console hardware languages. And get really good where you could teach somebody else, where you could write something of book level. Then you have a career path going forward. Now you can say, with my knowledge of this, I built this, and then I built something else, and then I built something else.
As far as like education is concerned, now people can go to school for this stuff. There's a legit pathway to actually take those steps, even if they don't see it, in those exact terms as you put them. But when you were first starting, I mean, like you said, there was no curriculum outside of like people like big companies like that are, basically at the forefront of the software game and stuff. I wonder how it is now for kids, now that they're able to go to school for this stuff, actually learn stuff on, online. And like you said, you didn't have a personal computer. Everybody has a computer now. If you have a phone, you have a computer. So I wonder like if to a point to where it is important to have that education, but like I guess some people will always try to cut those corners because they do have AI or technology that they can build on and stuff. Like, does that work? Do you think that someone could be so talented to where like they could do any of the things that you're doing, with an engine or something like that? Or do you think it's like you really need to, study up on what it is that you're trying to, whatever path it is you're trying to go? Because it is a lot of paths that you can go, but I'm sure that there's also paths that you can go that lead to, not necessarily the greatest projects or the greatest things that you want. So like, what do you think about that?
Wow. Well, that's a good question. First of all, I want to address something that you alluded to that I think is important because everybody has a computer now, but it's
Hmm.
not the same as the computers that we had originally. Those were much simpler, and this is part of the appeal of retro computing. If you bought something like an Atari computer or a VIC-20, you turned it on and you were already in the programming environment. You typed 10 print hello and it ran. You press enter, you press run, it wrote hello. Now, this stuff is so complicated, even getting to a place where you could experiment with programming
Yeah.
is a mess. When we teach web programming, you know where you start? You start in the console because getting something to write out into the DOM, the web HTML, is horrible. You're teaching all this stuff. No, I'm trying to teach like assigning a variable and then adding a number to it and then writing it out. I need a console. I don't need the wonderful world of CSS.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's made it harder. And I would say that it's when you learn and all of your learning is dependent on all this scaffolding,
Hmm.
like you use something like Replit or CodePen, where you can't make that website unless it's running that cloud service. Well, you're in a world of hurt because you're going to put in your job application at Adobe and they're going to tell you they don't do CodePen, bro. So I think local first is very important. Things that you can touch. And to answer your question more directly, we think of computers as digital and sort of cloudy and ethereal, but they are machines that operate on physics and electricity. And one really needs to understand not every bit and byte everywhere, but the general premise of how that goes together so that you have control over it and that you can replicate it in your own workshop. So somebody who has a car workshop at home, they've built a car, they've repaired a car, they've painted a car, is a much more likely person to get a job in a car repair business
Yeah.
or to go become the director of design or engineering at Ford. The person that's over here just typing and reading about cars, I know a lot about cars. Well, not really. Not
Yeah.
really. So I would say don't create dependencies on other platforms and things when you're learning because those are going to go way out from under you. Get valuable learning local stuff that you can control, systems that you can spin up and manage and deal with. There's that famous phrase, it worked on my machine, it ran on my machine. Every dev needs to get to the point where it does run on your machine. And think about how much of a step that is. Many people who would like to make software are not prepared to write software. They're not set up with an IDE. They're not set up with repo management. They may not know what that is. They don't know Git. They don't have a Git client. They don't have an
Hmm.
account on GitHub. Well, I'm telling you folks, unless you have local repos and Git and an IDE, don't do any software development. Do
I'm
it.
not a software developer. I got Git. I don't even do this stuff, and I got it. You know what I mean? So yeah.
But the magical world of I just typed it and it came true, well, it shackles you over to those people. And what if Replit or Lovable says, well, now you have to be on this other plan and it's so much per month, but you don't get that much storage and it costs extra for a domain. Yeah. If you develop that site on your own machine, and here's where the AI tools are really going to help you because the AI tool also is running on machine. Right? If you're building your portfolio site, which is a great project for everybody to build, you can tell your AI, I need to build this portfolio as a static website or a website for static hosting. That is a term that the AI knows. Things like Firebase or even GitHub hosting. There's lots of static hosting, free or cheap. And if your tool builds for that, now you have local control. You can visit localhost. It worked on my machine. You
Yeah.
can play with your colors without deploying, without paying someone, without uploading to Replit. Oh, Upload below. Oh, I hate it. Oh, take it down. Oh, I got to take it down. No, people don't do that in the real software world. We
Yeah.
don't play with all this. No, we make it work here. It worked on my machine. Then you can push it to somewhere. You can say, no, I love this website now. I'm going to deploy this to static hosting. And now we have something we can attach to a domain or let people preview. So I think, another famous quote of mine is, link or it didn't happen. If somebody cannot go to your project, it's not real. It's kind of mental masturbation. It's a paper plate sculpture with macaroni. And you have to go all the way to CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment. And why is it continuous? Because as soon as you deploy it, you hate it. It is a bug. So now we have to edit it and deploy again. It's continuous. We never
Mhm.
get out of this. But until you can get into that cycle, you can't be a software developer. You can be someone who's dependent on a cloud service, a no code, low code AI tool.
Mhm.
But moving to the developer world means taking responsibility for the whole thing, shipping it to the user, answering their problems, and fixing it when it's broke.
Where do you see software heading? Like as technology continues to, go through the roof, really? Where do you see software and, things like that going?
Well, we're entering a new era of personal bespoke software that costs nothing or next to nothing. And that's amazing because a lot of people wanted bespoke software and they would imagine things for their small business that really couldn't be built economically. Small, like a charity might say, all we need, and it's always all we need. It sounds simple to them. We need this thing that takes payments, and then we need to keep track of how many animals we have and how long they've been there. And we also need something for our employees where they can log in and they can adjust the shelter schedule. And then we also have an event. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So really they need a bespoke solution and they cannot go to somebody and say, well, I'd like custom software. I'll build me a custom website for $5,000. It's never going to happen. Those people wind up with Squarespace or Wix or Shopify. It doesn't really meet their needs. It's leaving a lot of human work on the table. So AI can make those bespoke tools. I needed one the other day. I was working with a lot of markdown stuff for a grant that I'm helping my mom get for her charity. And there are many markdown to PDF tools. I didn't want to pay for one. I don't want to upload anything. I don't want to install one. I don't want to learn the UI. Instead, I told Cursor, my AI tool that's using Claude on the back end, to make me a PDF converter from Markdown. And it pulled in a library to do that. And then it just ran the conversion on my documents. So now I have something that's in my work environment where I just say, hey, dude, make that a PDF. That kind of a bespoke solution, a custom workflow that doesn't require going to a developer is a new
Yeah.
thing. And if you have somebody in your org that's slightly techie that can talk about it, this is where a lot of time it falls apart. If the person can't talk about the software, they can't get an AI to build it either, because
Right.
that's just talking. Like my poor mom, when she watches this, they'll say things like, it popped up or it said, and as the developer, it what? What popped up? Which app are you in? No, did you click on? So those are words developers use, and the AI will need those same words, right? We can't be wishy-washy when we talk to the AI about what we want. I
Yeah.
just need you to take the money and put it in my bank. And
Yeah.
that's not going to fly.
I mean, I guess eventually you could get there, but it's gonna take you a long while. Like you're gonna have to go in a whole bunch of circles in order to get there. Yeah.
Right. So there are various levels of skills about interacting with AI.
Hmm.
Mostly they're about how well you can talk tech, how precisely you can describe what you want. So I think within organizations, we used to have the web guy, and maybe if you're lucky, the programmer, the IT department. But some of those people will be the interface layer. They'll take the call from Susan in accounting, who just really wishes they could do something else with these monthly reports. And they'll cook that up, and that thing will go into their drive. It won't tell Susan to log in. It'll go into Susan's drive over the network, see? And Salesforce isn't going to do that.
Yeah.
So this is the other side. For ages, we've had SaaS, where big companies make a big product that they charge a lot of money for. But it has to be big because it has to serve all these minutia users. Susan wants one thing, and Harry wants something else, and Larry's in a completely different industry. We need enormous soft.
Right.
Salesforce.
Yeah.
So some of that work will go to these bespoke solutions that are crafted by small developers or in-house teams. But there will always be a need for megacorp software. The developers that work in that field will work exclusively in what we're talking about with CI/CD, multi-project deployment, brainstorming and testing, A/B prototyping multiple products at one time. That's what this means. It doesn't mean that I have 20 agents working on the same product. That makes no sense. It means that after the coffee clatch about what we might do as a company, we build all 7 of them. That's what we do. We use the
Yeah.
agents to build all 7, and we put them in front of real people. And the one that sparks the fire goes, and the others get thrown away. So that developer is dealing with a different level. They're a manager, they're a project manager, overseer, business strategy, revenue monetization person as much as they are a code creator person.
Right.
So I would say simple code creation is going to get pushed back to the individual users and departments, where monetized software, where we expect someone to pay, is going to be more challenging because now you can't compete with Dinky Soft. See, you can't. I mean, we're seeing big companies like Figma have their stock values eaten by an announcement from Claude. So if it can happen to Figma, it can happen to your SaaS also.
Talk about Hexed a little bit, because is I was reading a little bit about it, and it's really interesting, but it's also very different at the same time. I was just reading some of the tidbits, 72 cars, and I was like, I know 52 pickup. I've never played 72 pickup though. Talk a little bit about the game, and I know you said you had a dream about it and it sort of came together like that. So just talk about the game a little bit more.
I just woke up and it was all there. It was so weird. Like I knew I could write the rule book, and I did. I knew enough to know if I don't do this right now, it's not going to happen. This cannot be a like go in the shower and change your mind. This is a like get the crusties out of your eyes,
Yeah.
and get a pen and get a keyboard and get on this. So I don't know where it came from. The game people say it's most like is Uno.
It would remind you of Uno, just how it's laid out, but reading some of the rules, I was like, well, yeah, that's not Uno at all. I can see how people would say that just because of the numbering system and stuff like that.
And I think that's good because Uno is the best-selling card game in the history of the world. It's made a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly right.
And I've applied for a patent for Hexed, where we're getting close to finish line. With any luck, I'll have that awarded here soon.
Another thing too is the card games, they've always kind of had their own like niche popularity or whatever, but I think they're starting to make a comeback, like as far as card games and people being into the physical tabletops methods of playing. I think that's making a nice little comeback. So I mean, you might be fitting the mold pretty perfectly at the right time there.
I think so. A digital overload is true for all of us. We all want. Look at how many like entertainment centers are showing up. We used to call those arcades when I was a kid, but now that adults are welcome and they serve alcohol, they call them entertainment centers.
Exactly.
But people don't want, just this and Netflix all day, that we need something physical. So cars are physical. You can sit down. Multifamily. It was important to me to make something that couldn't be construed as negative. There's so much negative stuff in the world. Not that I disavow that. I like chopping up somebody and Morrowind as much as the next guy. But but it doesn't need to be all that. We need healthy things that are safe for family, multiple age groups. Hexed Online does not have chat on purpose, even though it's multi-user and you very easily have chat. You pick an avatar, you pick your colors, you pick all that stuff. We don't have chat because I don't want to get into people chatting bad stuff. I don't want predator people. I don't need any of that in my game world. So we just don't have that.
Yeah. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I mean, it seems like every game needs to be ultra connected in some way these days, as far as, online play, or, whether it be the battle royale space or whatever the case may be. It's like, I just want to play by myself sometimes. Sometimes I just want to chill and not have to worry about, 5-year-old Timmy cussing me out on the chat.
And they're always younger than us at my age. You're always going to be blown away by someone 14. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. You've sort of, with software and gaming, they all connect. And then I see you also, dabble into music and a whole bunch of other different things, and they all sort of intertwine with each other. How do you keep it all together? Like, do you work on one thing at a time? Are you always like sort of multitasking? Like, what is your workflow like as someone who, deals with a lot of the stuff? Because I kind of deal with a lot of the same things too.
Well, I'm a creative person and a technical person, and that's kind of two different hats. I love the creative work, but I find that there's a performance tax for me.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
tiring.
Yeah.
I imagine that people that perform on stage every night are tired out from that.
Yeah.
When I had my podcast, it was tiring for me too. It's a being on stage is an exhaustive thing, and I don't mind doing that, but I've decided that I don't want that to be my work. So
Yeah.
all the mental energy I put into work goes into the software part rather than the performative public appearances part, creative part. So for my creative things, I've been a photographer for a long time and I've been lucky enough to have my work in galleries and a museum, but I don't work on monetizing that on purpose to keep that pure. So that now there was a time I took a break from my software career for about 3 years and did an art career. So that was fun, but it's kind of for me, it's one or the other
Yeah.
because I will get too worked up about the perfection or the monetizability or
Yeah.
something. I
Yeah.
will. This is my therapy right here. You see it's on all day because when I'm waiting for an agent or something else or need a break, I play the synth, play my speakers and play along. I jam along with other music and it's very therapeutic. And I feel like I get to be visited by the muses but
Mhm.
I don't owe anyone anything. No
Yeah.
one listens. It's never recorded. No one will ever hear Dave's greatest hits. So that's like a pressure release valve.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't have to sell my songs.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
sell them the software.
Yeah. What do you think is the next step? Because I mean, this is only going to continue to, further down the road, especially with how it's intertwined with software and how pretty much I guess it has fit its way into virtually everything we do now. I mean, you have AI on your refrigerator at this point. You know what I mean? So, where do you think like this thing is going?
Well, that's a good question. We're in that scene from Star Wars where they drop into the garbage chute and they're about to get crushed. We're in that because the crusher is the compute need. So we're saying we want personal agents. The dream is something Apple showed ages ago, 30
Yeah.
years ago, called
Yeah.
Knowledge Navigator. And that was where I could say, hey, Norman, I need a dentist appointment, but I really don't like my last dentist. Can you find me someone nice, maybe a woman that's not too far, and book an appointment for me? And Knowledge Navigator would do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like AI today could do that. We're having it make reports and getting grants and all this writing software and all this stuff. Why can it not do that? It can't do that because it needs a lot of context about your personal life that's private. But even more than being private, it's huge. It's huge. The number of tokens it would take to start every request with this is Dave's life, don't screw it up.
Yeah.
Right. And if it doesn't start with that, it's a generic answer. So if I ask, what should I have for dinner? And it doesn't have Dave's contacts, I get things that I'm allergic to or can't eat or don't want or don't have in the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
So to get to a personal navigator that really knows you, it has to carry all this context all the time, just
Yep.
like a human who
Yep.
knows you, right? We know never to go there when she brings up Trump. Yes, okay, we learn this over time. We carry around the knowledge about you. All right. Why are we getting crushed by the knowledge bag? Because the knowledge is a physical object. It has to run on a piece of hardware. And because of physics, that hardware requires electricity that someone has to pay for. And the chips are very expensive. So who is going to pay for all this? If you want to take your knowledge navigator to Kroger with you, who's going to pay for that? Are you? Is Kroger? The companies that would be willing to pay would do it only to surveil you
Right.
and
Right.
sell your identity. And that doesn't sound very good. We might be okay with Google knowing what TV shows we watch, but maybe not with what medicines we took or how we voted. Right. So, but really, I mean, if it was really your knowledge navigator, it would kind of have to know a lot of this. It would get not useful. Like if you didn't have a credit card, it wouldn't be very useful. But are you just going to give Microsoft unlimited use to your credit card?
Yeah, right.
So this
Right.
is where we're getting crushed. The needs are expanding. The garbage bin is filling up and the compute machine is coming over here to
Mm-hmm.
squeeze you saying you pay, pay, pay.
It's interesting too, because as someone who I haven't had my PC for a long time. I probably had my PC for about a year and a half now. And so learning about all of the different things that go within it. I mean, obviously, computing power, RAM, and all this different stuff, but like the software is like, it's definitely getting to a point to where like you can kind of see how people are positioning themselves, like as far as the LLMs and the big companies. You can kind of see where it's going. It's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be some iRobot type of thing. I mean, I guess it could be, but it's going to be people are, like you said, are going to have these super big things that you have really no choice but to sort of, I guess, play nice with. And then on the flip side, the people who are, I guess, freelance or amateur or whatever, like, I wonder where that gap, does it expand, does it close because of AI? Like, someone like me who understands AI, understands kind of the motion and kind of where it's going, but not necessarily, I couldn't write your code, you know what I mean? So like, but I understand what code does. I understand you need the code in order to get A, B, and C. And so I just wonder, like, how does this continue? Because it seems like it's just going down a road of like where all of the big companies and the big, the Apples of the world and stuff are going to have all this information, and we're just going to have to kind of fall in line unless we are someone like yourself who can, put it directly on our on our hardware and say, I created this. I know what goes into it. I know how to fix it. A, B, and C.
That's right. To the platform go the spoils is another phrase I like a lot lately. Yeah, because all this stuff does require such heavy equipment. There are going to be very few providers of the heavy equipment. We use electricity all day long, but we don't think about the fact that every single person in our town gets their electricity from the same factory. Right. And for many towns beyond ours. So when compute becomes an infrastructure thing that we have to have, because we've set up society that way, the people who provide that infra will have unlimited money flowing to them like waterfalls. So the only escape is to build the small, isolated systems, but those are for small tasks. So we see a lot of posts on LinkedIn about, well, I got a local model and I kicked my $200 a month habit. Well, no, you didn't. Because the cloud model has an incredibly sophisticated harness of system prompts around what you type. You type, I'm thinking about making a logo, but that is not what went to the LLM at all. And what came back from the LLM is not what goes to you. And all that stuff in between consumes token and compute on your end and on their end. And that's a special thing that they're bringing you as a packaged UI. So model, people don't know this either. A model is just numbers. A model is just a big file of numbers. It doesn't have any words. Models for graphics and pictures do not have any pictures. They don't have any pixels in them. Well, how is this possible? Models of data tables do not have any data in them. And they just have numbers. The work of turning your prompt plus the model back into an answer happens after you submit the prompt. So when you're seeing the cloud computer answer very quickly, it's because it's actually retrieving the next word after the model plus your prompt. Then we go again, those 2 words and back. Now we got those 3 words and back. And that work has to be done against the data in the model every single time. So if we're running locally, your little puny computer is trying to do that. You're going to sit there while your computer goes, wait, now they said there was already a repo. I don't know where repos are. Let me search the entire drive for a folder called repo, because that's what it's going to do.
Yeah.
So it's not practical. The more we depend on it, the less practical it becomes to make it at home. You see ads on TV for get off the grid, get solar batteries. The apocalypse is coming. Okay. Then you go to the website and you look at the battery and it costs $1,000. And you say, what can you do with this? How long does it take to charge? Well, you have to put 3 solar things on it, and it takes 24 hours to charge. And how long does it run on that? Well, you can run a clock radio and maybe charge an iPhone a few times. You're like, wait a minute, I got $1,000 in the battery thing and a solar taking over my yard, but it won't start the fridge. No, it will not start the fridge. That's correct.
Yeah. That's crazy. Interesting times for sure. Let's talk about Watson and Holmes, though. I mean, obviously, Sherlock Holmes has always been popular. I mean, it's popular for as long as I could ever remember. What was your take on it, or what was the reasoning that you wanted to go that route? Because obviously you have different, stories, different ways of telling it and stuff like that. But what was your point of view of it all?
Well, as a kid, I got into Agatha Christie, who's like Arthur Conan Doyle light. Sort of. And they were working around the same time. So it's not, all of this detective fiction was invented right around the same time.
Yeah.
As a kid in high school, I decided to read all of hers, and I did. But I never poked around Sherlock Holmes. For some reason, the character just didn't appeal to me too much. And I don't know what kicked me over the edge into reading some of it later. But I realized that Mr. Doyle is really the Mac Daddy on this one. He pretty much invented the genre. He was inspired a little bit by a French author first, but what we know is detective fiction really belongs to him. And more importantly, forensic science, the kind that's used by police departments, was invented by the fiction author Arthur Conan Doyle. And before he started writing about fictional cases that used forensics, police departments would do things like say, well, she saw a man walking down that alley. He must be the killer. That's how they did it. That's how they did police science. I mean, it's rad. They would execute people or put them in jail over these, I surmise or I believe or I thought. And Doyle predicted techniques before they were even scientifically possible. He was a voracious reader and read all kinds of other literature. The other thing that appealed to me was he was a stickler for accuracy. So if he wrote a story that said that at so-and-so's pharmacy down the road from Mrs. Whatsy Doodle, it was raining the morning of the thing, you'll be able to find the London Times on that day, and in that neighborhood, it was raining that morning. So he kept a massive archive at a library and blended that in. Like his lore, to use a gaming term, was reality. And that makes it so believable because you can drop into the world. It's not Narnia, it's not made up, it's really London. And he really knew it. And he makes references to people who were people that were really in the newspaper, or he makes references to scientific discoveries that had just been discovered. So it gives it a sense of being in situ, being in the place. And I love that about it. And then I wanted to extend it to San Francisco because I grew up in the Bay Area. And San Francisco is a pretty special and historic city and had a lot going on in the gold rush era. And if you time it right, you can make a story that happened before the first Watson and Holmes story, or I should say Sherlock Holmes story from Conan Doyle, that takes place around the gold rush era in San Francisco. So that's where you asked me what I would add to it. That's what I could add to it, I think. I thought I could transplant these guys across the ocean. I could invent a reason that Holmes got called over here based on his reputation. His new friend Watson drags along, and he's going to be the narrator and the primary in this telling of it. And they're going to go to San Francisco during the gold rush. We're going to talk about the conflict between the recruited Asian immigrant workers who are badly treated and railroad oligarchs who own everything and control all the land. There's about 5 families that run everything. Nob Hill, the name of the neighborhood, was now it's a prestigious, expensive neighborhood. And it got that way because these robber barons, that's a term that was invented in the railroad era in San Francisco, were horrible people. And they were called knobs by the regular people who said, oh, those knobs that don't want anything to do with us, we don't want anything to do with them. All they do is own people and boss them around. So that I was just really attracted to, and having grown up there and spent a lot of time around that history, I wanted to merge that. And I love the idea of forensic science and a good true crime novel. And also, I'm a gay guy. And I think most gay people would believe that Sherlock Holmes and John Watson are gay men. You could not make a story about that at that time. It had to be a subtext.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which reflects the reality of living at the time. So these guys they live together. It's like the 2 school teachers that you remember. Mrs. Whittle and Mrs. Waddle. Well, they said, yeah, they're lovers. No one said that, but they were.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're dealing with here. So for me, that's a subtext because being a child of the gay liberation movement, Stonewall happened the year before I was born. So I have experienced gay liberation through my whole life and trying to be part of that and making that happen. This story about how we tell our story fictionally, how are we represented, is very important to me. And these guys had to live in a time where you couldn't do it. They had to go out and be a gay couple, but you couldn't be a gay couple. So that subtext is in there too.
You brought up Agatha Christie. I was going to say I was playing what Agatha Christie game? ABC Murders is what it was.
Absolutely. I love that game.
Yeah,
That's a
really good game. Yeah. That's what made me think about it. I was like, what game did I just play not that long ago that was that? So yeah, I played that not too long ago. But as far as like you, I mean, you've done a whole bunch of things. You do a whole bunch of things. What is something that you haven't done that you would like to, or what is sort of the next step for you as far as like the evolution of what the things that you're doing?
Well, I'll be candid. I would like to have an app that pays the bills. I would like to have
Yeah,
a
yeah,
viral app that pays the effing bills because
yeah.
we all need it. And I'm
Uh-huh.
old and I don't want to work for the people anymore. So I don't believe in mailbox money. That's a big myth. I think you have
Hmm.
to work for every dollar and you have to take care of all your customers if you're going to have them tomorrow. But I would like to have an app that people feel valuable enough to pay for, that they're excited. I don't want, in other words, not that I have to sell it or slog it. I want Disneyland where they want to be in my Disneyland.
Gotcha.
So I have several app ideas in the pipeline. TV Explorer was the first one that went viral on its own. It's the first app I've ever had where I didn't have to ask people to use it. People told me, I know somebody who has to, my sister is teaching her kids Spanish. I need to tell her about it. That's the first time. And I'd never even learned what viral means until now.
Yeah.
I thought it just meant that your thing was popular. No, that's not what it means. It means that every user thinks of another user on their own and is self-motivated to tell them. That's different from I asked you to tell someone.
Exactly.
Or I say, do you know anybody? It has to appear spontaneously like a fountain in their brain. Oh my God, I have to call Susan. She'll love this. She has to see this
Yeah.
right now. I'm texting her right now. That's viral.
Yeah.
TV Explorer was the first one I ever had that did that on its own. So I have a couple more in the pipeline. I'll have to reveal them in later shows. But in general, I think my direction is I want to make apps that are more mass market, less niche. TV is a good example. TV is universal. It survives war and poverty and economic up and down and language and everything else, global. Spirituality and religion and philosophy are something that have always been interesting to me. I'm interested in comparative religion and understanding them so that we can understand each other and cooperate and behave.
Hmm.
So I think there's room for software in that area to be helpful there too. So that's
Interesting.
one possible direction. And general human relations, communications, things that are global. I've always loved languages. So apps in this area where it's not so niche or political or genre specific.
If people want to reach out to you, go ahead and plug yourself and let people know where they can find your things, and all of that good stuff.
Sure. Okay. Well, Watson has a new showcase website for all things Watson, including my portfolio. That's at watsonengine.io. Watsonengine.io. So, yes, and you can make yourself a Watson account, a free forever account. If you do that, then you'll have free access to all the Watson apps now and in the future.
And I mean, I was thinking just because the first time I heard Watson was IBM, which is kind of interesting, that whole connection that you have to
And
IBM.
I
So,
didn't even think about it. I didn't. I swear, working there, it must have gotten into my bloodstream or something. It never even occurred to me until I'd already finished that, started on the engine, and I'm like, they made an AI thing called that. And then it happened to me before with my failed software company. We had as our slogan, "Think Better."
hmm.
And that IBM sued me for trademark infringement because
Wow.
because they had "think" for the ThinkPad.
Huh? Yeah,
I thought, you've got to be kidding.
that's
But
crazy.
I wound up having to license it. I licensed it for free, but I was allowed to use my Think Better with my company name as long as it wasn't on hardware, which was software. So that was fine. I was like, oh, Mama IBM, she's just not going to let go.
I mean, but IBM is one of those big dogs to where like they control it. You know what I mean? Like they very much are in control as far as the things that they are operating on. I only really knew about IBM because I know they were doing. I think I was watching football and they have like they have a predictive AI for football and stuff like that. I've kind of heard those different things like that.
It's the last name of the founder, Thomas J. Watson. So that's
Hmm.
why they like to name things that.
Yeah, that which I mean, I guess that makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I guess you weren't thinking about that, man.
No, I never even crossed. I have, David, you've done it again.